Evening of the 5th day. A crow's wet feathers.
Part 0. End it. Part 1. By the way, in Russia, a crow's wet feathers supposedly means the peak of despair. Given that, you could romantically describe this island as the ultimate destination for those in despair. Just as the opposite of love isn't hate, but indifference. The opposite of hope isn't despair. Surely the opposite of hope is apathetic acceptance of all things. An absolute, sure apathy that allows you to approve of all things, to say, yes, that's fine. That is the opposite of hope. Everything is here, so what more do you need? The far side of that smoothed out average line, a metaphorical place that is the outcome of any and all emotions running their course. The distant shore of the lake of non-interference that we all view at some point or another, with longing eyes laced with envy. That domain on the reverse side of taboos, that boasts an expanse wedded to reality, with a big equal sign, that maintains a density equal to nothingness. To reach said domain requires many sacrifices. What's more, it was a one-way ticket with no guarantees. However, even so, there are people who reach it, whether by some mistake or by being successful. Kanami Ibuki, Akane Sonayama, Yayoi Sashirono, Maki Himina, Iria Akagami, Akari Chika, Hikari Chika, Teriko Chika, Rei Honda, and Tomo Kunigisa. This is all probably cheap sentiment. Nothing but boring, worthless nonsense. The worst part of it is that this nonsense had a continuation. Really now, what kind of a clown was I?
So, have you figured anything out?
The 5th dinner assembly. Teriko had personal chores to attend to, so her seat was empty, but the other 9 of us were all gathered together. 9 people. Until the day before yesterday, just 2 days ago, there were 12 of us surrounding this round table.
Do I have to ask you again? Kunigisa, you and he are still doing some investigating, correct? Well, have you figured anything out?
Iria repeated. She seemed to be having an awful lot of fun. I'm sure she was. Of course it was fun. Because she had probably created a whole world in her head. Because this island, this Wet Crow's Feather Island, was, for her, the world itself.
Shall I ask again?
We know absolutely nothing. Positively nothing at all, I answered. What about it? Does that inconvenience you?
Oh, no. I was just thinking. I guess there's nothing we can do without someone who's a pro, after all.
Iria said dreamily.
Well, I guess the best thing then is to continue operating in teams like this for the next 3 days.
3 days? Shinya asked. I must say, you seem to be expecting quite a bit from this person. Just what kind of person is this Aikawa anyway? How did you meet?
That's a private matter,
Iria replied with a wry smile.
But I will tell you what kind of a person... What should I say? A very frightening person. Well, that's what you'd expect from humanity's strongest contractor. But also incredibly intelligent. I'm sure this case will be solved in no time. I really can't wait.
A master detective, huh? Solving the case before the detective even came on stage probably disqualified me as a supporting character. I entertained that self-deprecating thought, but my life was on the line here, and there were various complicated circumstances. I couldn't just sit around and wait for the lead actor to show up. It was his own fault for being late. Maki snickered next to me. She seemed to be having an awful lot of fun as well. I didn't know whether she was reading my thoughts or laughing at the farce to come. Surely both, but they probably weren't the only reasons she was laughing. Really, just who was this woman who was able to continue chortling even after chugging down everything in the world? Maybe she was deserving of respect. I looked away from her.
I'm told Aikawa will be here in the afternoon 3 days from now at the latest. After that, I'm sure everything will soon be...
As Iria expounded upon this detective of hers, the sound of overturning flatware and clattering porcelain interrupted her, along with a loud voice.
Enough!
It was Yayoi. Rising from her seat, she used her right arm to shove off the table all of the food she herself had made. She then proceeded to take the now dirty tablecloth and yank it, causing all the dishes to come toppling off the table and shatter. A grating string of noise stretched throughout the dining room.
Enough of this!
She banged her hands on the table.
Ma'am.
In an effort to settle her down, Hikari rose from her seat as well and approached her, but Yayoi gave her a violent shove.
What is all this? Give me a break. I want out of this farce. A detective? A locked room? Decapitated corpses? This isn't some mystery novel. Don't you realize people are being killed? Why the hell are you eating during this kind of discussion? Their heads were cut off. Don't eat my food while you're talking about such a thing. You must all be crazy if you're able to stay so calm about all of this. Why don't you care that people were killed? You're all disgusting. Since when was it okay to kill people in this country? Ma'am,
Hikari said from the floor.
Please calm down. You're the killer!
Yayoi screamed even louder.
It's obvious! We already know that! You were the only one with a key to that storage room, and you visited Sonoyama in the middle of the night, didn't you? That's when you killed her, and you must have killed Kanami Ibuki, too!
You don't have any proof. You shouldn't say such things without any proof, Yayoi. I tried my best to stay cool as I reprimanded her. There's no proof that Hikari is the murderer.
Proof? I don't give a hoot about proof!
But there's no reason Hikari would have done such a thing.
It's not like you can expect to understand how a maniac's mind works. She's probably going to use it in some kind of ritual to call upon some god. No more! No more! No more! Why are you trying to come near me? You think you'll take my head next? Never!
Yayoi, please calm down.
I'm plenty calm. I'm fine. You are all the crazy ones. You're all nuts. You're all disgusting. I've had enough. Grown-ups getting together to discuss what? I can't even talk to you. What language are you all speaking? A detective, a locked room, decapitations. What the hell language is that? Am I the only one from Earth here? If that's the case, then I'll just leave right now. I don't want to be on this crazy island anymore. I don't want to talk to you people.
She slammed the table once again.
I don't trust any of you. From now on, I'm staying in my room. I'm barricading myself in. Call me when you're ready to send me back to the mainland. Otherwise, leave me the hell alone. Don't come near me.
Having spewed those words, Yayoi stormed off towards the dining room exit.
Ma'am!
Hikari called once more, but Yayoi didn't even look back, and eventually she was gone from sight. A long, awkward silence,
Oh my.
Iria eventually said, with a bittersweet smile and a shrug.
And here I thought she was so polite. What a temper. Phew.
She sighed before continuing.
Aikawa is going to all the trouble to come here. I can't just send one of the suspects home. Hikari, this is your responsibility. Go do something to convince her. Yes.
Hikari said, with her head down.
Understood, my mistress. Oh, dinner is all ruined. Hikari, will you hurry and make us something? Now just where has Teriko gone at a time like this?
Indeed. Dinner was ruined just as Iria said. But this much of a stage direction was a necessary expense, so to speak. It wasn't my money, and of course, you shouldn't waste food. But I wasn't the one who had done it anyway. It was Yayoi, the one who had made the food in the first place. Kunagisa stared at the fallen smashed dishes wistfully. Not the food, but the dishes. Perhaps she was thinking of her destroyed computers, which were the same white color. Hey, batting third, catcher. Kunagisa looked at me.
What, Ichan?
I better get going. I'll leave this to you.
Gotcha.
She nodded. I rose from my seat and headed for the door. What are you doing? Get off of me! Get off of me! Get! I could hear the sound of trouble brewing behind me. I turned to find Kunagisa climbing over the table and jumping Shinya. It was admittedly a slightly enviable sight for me. But for now, I had to let it go. Besides, I couldn't take Kunagisa with me. Running down the hall with one eye closed, I climbed the stairs and eventually spotted Yayoi when I neared her room. She was leaning up against the wall, a vacant look on her face. She looked up at me and sighed with relief.
How was I?
You gave a star performance.
Performance, huh? It was more than half genuine.
She said, shaking her head and walking with me.
But is it really possible for that person to be the killer?
You checked yourself, right?
True. The smell was right, but I don't have that much faith in my sense of smell. I'm not a dog, after all.
Close enough, though.
That's not a compliment, you know.
Right. Kanami told me something similar. It's not a compliment if you say, you're like a such and such. Well, what woman wouldn't be offended after being compared to a dog? I went ahead and apologized. We arrived at the door to Yayoi's room.
So, what do we do from here?
She asked. Please go back to the dining room. It's dangerous here.
Then why are you doing it?
She inquired, simply expressing a doubt.
I feel like there must be another way. This is just my speculation, but it feels like you deliberately picked the most dangerous possible option. In this world, there are people who die from eating too much and people who die from starvation, and the former is overwhelmingly more common. But it seems you're the latter type.
Don't overestimate me.
That wasn't a compliment.
With that, she gave me a nod and slowly headed back the way we had come. Dangerous, I mumbled to myself. Of course, I was well aware of this. I had complete understanding of the dangers I faced when I decided to do this, which I suppose really did make me the starving to death type. Now there's some nonsense for you. After a brief mental preparation, I slowly, gently opened the door to Yayoi's room. It was dark inside. Unable to see much of anything, I advanced a step. The sound of sliced air. I did a forward roll and slipped into the room. Then I rose to one knee and opened the eye that I'd kept shut. This way, I could make out the inside of the room at least a little bit. That person closed the door behind me. I could see the person's face clearly, and, at that moment, learned that my hypothesis had been correct. My opponent wore a slight look of surprise, but only held it for a second before brandishing a hatchet. A hatchet at me. Silent. My attacker didn't say a word. Regulating my breathing, I rose to my feet. Although I'd laid this trap, it had been quite some time since I had done any acrobatics. Not that I'd been bad at it, but my skills had definitely dulled in the few months since coming back to Japan. As if realizing the immediate need to settle this, my attacker moved first, shuffling towards me. With Kunagisa suppressing Shinya, someone would eventually come and save me as long as I could buy some time. There was no need to go on the offense. In fact, I wanted to get out of there, but my attacker was standing between me and the door, so that probably would have posed quite a challenge. For now, I just had to focus on dodging attacks. This sort of passive thinking had me written all over it, but it was no good. In focusing my gaze entirely on my attacker's hatchet, I completely neglected to pay any attention to my feet. My attacker faked with the hatchet, then came at me with a leg sweep. It made a glorious connection. Unable even to brace for the fall, I'd slammed into the carpet facing up. My attacker proceeded to mount me and pinned down my shoulders. It all happened in a single instant. The match was essentially over. Maybe I should have spent those mornings running marathons instead of just going for walks. Or maybe I should have continued going to a dojo, even after I had got back to Japan. Man. Ah well, truth be told, it didn't really make much difference whether I was killed or not. At this point, Kunagisa had probably already explained everything to the others, and Yayoi had already returned to the dining room as well. Either way, my attacker couldn't escape. I may have lost the game and match, but it wasn't like they'd pitched a perfect game. So this was fine. Now then, the hatchet. With that hatchet...
Die.
My attacker's cold, familiar voice. I noticed I had completely given up. What was this feeling? I wondered why. Why I was giving up my life so easily. Didn't I want to live? It wasn't that I wanted to die, but I didn't want to live either. Life was a big hassle, but going out of my way to die was a bother too. Was there nothing important to me? Nothing I wanted? Nothing I wanted to protect? Is that why I was so ready to give up? No, that wasn't it. It was because even if I died here, it would trouble no one. It wouldn't trouble Kunagisa. Maki, did you know this was coming? If so, I suppose I'm grateful that you didn't tell me anything at all. I felt like I understood why Maki, who knew all, had said nothing. To die when your time is up. Though I wasn't quite in that frame of mind yet. Indeed, just as Tereko said, I needed to die. Seriously. Right? But the hatchet wasn't coming down. It was raised way up in the air, but just stayed there. Looking up suspiciously at my attacker's face, I saw not a sadistic expression, but rather a grimace. My attacker was desperately struggling to bring down the hatchet.
You don't close your eyes, do you?
There was another person. It wasn't the voice of the person on top of me. I couldn't see from where it was, but this third person must have grabbed the hatchet while it was in the air and refused to let go. Who was it? Had Yayoi come to save me? Had Kunigisa followed me here? But neither possibility seemed the case. The third person snatched away the hatchet, and in the same instant delivered a beautiful, truly glorious low kick to my attacker's completely open side. Unable to take the blow, my attacker rolled off me and slammed into the nearby sofa, but in no time was back on 2 feet and face to face with the third person. In one fell swoop, I had become a mere spectator. At this point, for some reason, the third person threw away the hatchet, and here there was such a golden opportunity to use it. Could it have been a gesture of sportsmanship at a time like this? Unlike when fighting me, my attacker didn't attempt to pounce recklessly, but there was a time limit here. If this didn't get settled fast, there was a chance Kunigisa would finish explaining everything and bring the others here. But this third person didn't repeat my mistake, and with a tupping sound against the floor, sprang towards my attacker, covering as much as 6 feet in a single stride. In a Japanese Kenpo-style motion, the momentum from the leap was channeled into a straight punch. Instead of dodging back or to the side, my attacker instead leaned diagonally, evading the punch and getting under the third person's guard at the same time. My attacker then grabbed the third person by the throat, but the latter delivered another straight punch without even trying to elude the clutch. My attacker, still in offensive mode, was unable to dodge. The punch connected straight with the heart. My attacker let out a groan, but refused to release the third person's throat, and almost effortlessly slid past the side and delivered a back kick to the calf. The third person was afloat in the air. It appeared my attacker intended to use this opportunity for a forceful slam. Watching from the sidelines, even I thought this was the end, but it didn't end. The third person used my attacker's arm as a pivot, swung up, and shifted in midair, so that when they both fell to the floor, my attacker's arm was in a lock. It was like a seesawing judo match. A split second. The surprisingly light, almost anticlimactic sound of a bone breaking echoed throughout the dark room. The third person released the arm and stood up. My attacker followed suit and began to stand up too, but before managing to get up all the way, took a merciless kick to the already seemingly broken arm and proceeded to fly through the air over a sofa. The sound of a glass table shattering. Then, my attacker's body rolled onto the sofa on the other side.
Phew.
Still breathing calmly, the third person assumed a stance. We had a winner. I was utterly speechless. At last, the third person faced me, and without so much as a smirk, said,
When you're about to die, I think you should close your eyes.
Sapped of all my strength, I muttered as I thought to myself, I thought guys like me could just go and die.
Oh, that
A tilt of the head.
was a lie.
Tereko said. Slowly shaking my head, I held my hand out to her. I figured the chances were about 50-50, but she grabbed my hand and pulled me to my feet. Why are you here? I asked her.
No reason. It was mere necessity.
What are you talking about?
Don't mind me. Just simple nonsense.
That too? That was my line. Good grief. Thank you. Having pulled me back to my feet, Tereko quickly let go of my hand and looked up at me with those out-of-focus eyes.
No need to thank me. More importantly...
A brief pause.
There's something that's been bothering me.
Say what? That was a fairly heavy statement to make. What was she about to say? I couldn't even imagine. Dark. My eyes had completely adjusted to the darkness, but I still couldn't read Tereko's expression. It was like my own heart. It was like the hearts of other people.
Your question from this afternoon,
Tereko said, with that same old pale tone and cold gaze.
I know you were speaking metaphorically, but were you talking about Kunagisa, or did you mean yourself?
The child locked in the basement, deprived of all communication for 10 years. I tried to touch Tereko's hand again, for no reason at all. For an instant, our fingers touched. Then, the moment they separated, an eardrum-shattering sound. It was as if a shockwave had run through my entire body. Tereko's body slumped into mine, like dead weight. I held onto her as she rested her whole weight on me, but there was no time to stand there and savor the warm touch of her expectedly light body. My eyes were glued to the sofa. Or, to be more specific, to her, sitting there holding a handgun. Sitting there imperiously. My eyes were glued. It was a black gun, a relatively popular model. I had even seen a few overseas. I sure didn't expect to see one in Japan, though. She had a Glock? That she might possess a gun wasn't open to doubt, but why hadn't she used it until now? That was easy. No matter how big this mansion was, it wasn't big enough to stop the sound of a gunshot from reaching every corner of it. In other words, this was probably the final ace up her sleeve. It was an illegal move, the absolute forbidden method. In which case, having made her use it, the day was mine. I still had my ace. If only because I'd let my chance to use it slip away. But this time, it really was the end. Hence this was the end. Continued. The final scene. Recouped. A voice. A faint voice. Then, the gun barrel turned towards me. She said. I wondered what she was saying. Maybe the gun blast had ruptured my eardrums, and her voice didn't reach me. No, my eardrums were probably okay, just momentarily numb. But in a situation like this, that meant the same thing. It didn't look as if she were going to wait for my hearing to come back. What had she said? It kind of bothered me. Checkmate. Goodbye. Such a fool. What were you trying to do? Dying here? What have you lived for? Those were the kind of things she might have said to me. Or no, maybe she hadn't said anything at all. Either way, there is no meaning in lines you can't hear, just like there's no meaning in feelings you don't express. Out of steam, I gazed at her, over Teriko's shoulder, past the gun's sights. In the end, this was it for me. I hadn't hoped for anyone to come conveniently to my rescue, of course. This was pretty much what I expected to happen. I didn't mean to get Teriko involved. But aside from that, everything had gone more or less according to plan. That's because my one and only plan was to not involve Kunigisa. Nothing else mattered. It didn't. Really. I was apathetic and indifferent. No before, no after. Having received life? Can't say I recall. The feeling of being alive? Who gives a damn? My reality is but a synonym for fantasy, and that's certainly not the antonym for dream. Already, Teriko's body resting on me, my throbbing ankle pain, my paralyzed train of thought, my breaking values, my melting ethics, my collapsing morals, Kaname's neck, Akane's neck, the truth of the case, the culprit, the killer, serial killer, her segmenting. None of that mattered now. I would forgive it all. So, pull that trigger and end it, please. The sound of the gun cocking, a sound I had heard enough times abroad. And so, finally, here.
Ichan!
The sound of the door slamming open. Light pierced the room with such ferocity that my eyes stopped functioning for a moment. But I didn't need my visual organs to know who was there. Even with my stunned eardrums, her voice alone reached me. But I could barely believe it. Tomo Kunigisa was standing there alone. Ridiculous. That wasn't possible. I had left her on the first floor so she couldn't do this. I had left her on the first floor because she was unable to climb stairs alone. She wasn't supposed to be able to come here alone. But she was indeed alone. With tears in her eyes, she wore a terribly exhausted expression. She was panting, clutching her chest. She looked as if she were ready to collapse at any moment. But she forced herself to remain standing. Alone. Wait a sec. This couldn't be. Someone had to be with her. If no one were with her, it would have been impossible for her to climb that spiral staircase. Maybe 1 or 2 steps, but not this. It was impossible. And yet, despite it being impossible, had she actually come up here alone? Up here? To be sure, it wasn't physically impossible. But compulsive disorders aren't something to be taken lightly. They aren't so minor that you can just conquer them with willpower. I know for a fact that defying one's own subconscious is no walk in the park. However, having heard the gunshot, Kunigisa, despite it being deathly agonizing, despite it being so painful that in a worst-case scenario she really might have died, forgetting even to bring someone along, suppressing the urge to vomit, clutching her own heart, forcing those reluctant legs to keep moving, lashing at her own fear-ridden soul, with that heart much too fragile for living, enduring the anguish of the depths of hell, she'd come up to where I was? Casting all things aside, Tomo Kunigisa, for me. Why? It was too much. It was heartbreaking to the point of brutality. Really, how much of a clown was I? This emotion, this painful emotion. What was the name for it? Why are you always shaking me up? You, really, since back then, nothing's changed. The woman smoothly pointed the muzzle away from me, and at Kunigisa. Hey! What are you doing? You were going to shoot me. What need is there to point your gun that way? No such necessity exists. Or do you have no use for such things? Are things like necessity and reality non-existent in that convenient world you live in? The light. Gradually, my eyes were adjusting. Hers were probably doing the same. Kunigisa, however, who, unlike us, was adapting to the dark, not the light, couldn't yet make out my attacker. Dark adaptation takes longer than light adaptation. Consequently, if she were to shoot now, there was no way Kunigisa would dodge. I started to stand, but by the time I was on my feet, it would be too late. There was no point. There was no way I could make it to Kunigisa in time. I couldn't outrun a bullet. Even if I could, there would be no point. I couldn't just die right before Kunigisa's eyes. I was too late. I was too late, just as I'd been 5 years ago. Just like always. In which case, there was nothing I could... Oh. It seemed Kunigisa had spotted me, without even casting a glance at the handgun, without letting my attacker even enter her field of vision. She'd stuck a finger out at me, and grinned.
Thank God. You're okay, Ii-chan.
With that smile, that selfless smile, that ragged smile, with Tomo Kunigisa, who was completely oblivious to the circumstances. Truly, I'm in love with this girl. Yes, it was something I'd always known. It was so obvious to me that there was never a need to put it into words, because there was no need for words between us. It was self-evident. I'd been aware from long ago, from the instant I had met her. I had chosen Tomo Kunigisa, to the point that I didn't care about anything else. I didn't need to be loved or chosen. So please, don't do it, I begged the woman. She remained motionless for a while, but then... She spun the gun around and pointed it at the ground. She continued laughing for a while, like she was truly having a ball. Sing-song laughter. Dragging my feet, I made my way over to Kunigisa and hugged her by the shoulders. Her body had become thoroughly hot. That was enough to discern just how much she had struggled to make it here. I held Kunigisa to shield her and trained my eyes back on my attacker. She was looking back at us holding on to each other.
I've still got some complaints, but, well...
She opened her mouth.
This time, just getting to hear a guy like you speak such an innocent line will do, I guess. Those were words I couldn't hear from you last night, after all.
Saying so cynically, Akane Sonayama tossed the gun aside.